can't see you at all. What do you look like? Maybe if I turn off this chat. Hey, there you are. Hi, Matt. I can see you now.
Okay, good.
Matthew.
It doesn't matter.
I know lots of Matts. That's why I said that, because believe me, I know a lot of Matts. I know at least five, and they all say Matt. None of them are Matthews. Well, I forgot what country you said you were from.
I grew up in Washington D.C. actually,
Oh,
so
so
I'm
you're
from
an
America.
American.
I am, but I'm currently living in Prague, Czech Republic. My wife is Czech.
I thought so, because I couldn't. I was thinking, no, wait a minute. I know it's not Germany.
It's very close
But
though.
wait a minute. Czechoslovakia isn't Czechoslovakia anymore, is it?
Correct. It's been split into the Czech Republic and Slovakia, two separate countries, but it's the same geographical area.
Oh yeah, I knew that, but I don't really keep up with things too much. I mean, for all I know, they might have got, since the last time I remember somebody talking to somebody, it was the way it is now. But you know, all kinds of things can happen in 20 years. They might get back together. You know, I mean, who knows?
I live here, and I can tell you they will not get back
Oh,
together.
okay.
they, yeah, no, they don't. But also, it has a history now, so like that history is sort of Nazis, World War II, all this kind of stuff. So like they don't want they want to move forward.
My friends that made the movie. I mean, that movie makes. I hope you didn't see it, did you?
I must admit, I saw the trailer and I saw some interviews.
I mean, recommend it to everybody because they're my closest friends, and he won an Emmy, you know. Yeah,
Really?
they're my closest friends in the world. Because I don't have any close family. Because there's lots of negative things in them. You know. But look, you know, I let them have their way because, and you know, you don't want somebody to make a movie about themselves, because it'd be like if a politician made a movie about themselves, right?
Propaganda.
Yeah, right. No, so there's lots of negative things in it because I didn't make the movie. I let them have their way. I let them have their way.
I have to admit, I've read many little articles and snippets about you, and I totally understand like some people's negative perspectives on things that you've done, but I'm not one of those people.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, oh sure, I knew that. Yeah. Tell me when we get started, and I'll behave better.
Oh, actually, I've been recording this whole time.
Oh, okay, sure.
Sometimes these random conversations are the most fun.
It's been so long since I did that last one. I guess we must have done it on the PC, but we didn't do video though. It was all talking. You know, maybe I had a landline in those days. Could it have been done on a landline?
Certainly, yeah.
Maybe that was, I don't know. Well, your memory really starts to let you down when you get old.
How old are you these days?
66.
Oh, you're not that old.
Yeah, but I look older. Everybody says so. I got away with, yeah, you know, at the airport, that this guy asked me if I was 76, you know. Well, the first time they asked, I said no. And then I thought about it. And then the next time I was on a trip, and an official asked me, you know, this is like when you're going through security and everything, you know. And some guy came up to me and asked if I was 76. And so because I had some time to think about it, and I thought, I mean, what would they do to me, you know? And so I was, yeah.
They'll give you special treatment if you are.
Well, no, I just didn't have to go through as much. I got into another line, and I didn't have to do a lot of things. They pretty much rushed me through.
And that's special treatment
Yeah, yeah,
in an airport.
yeah. So anyway, I got away with it.
It's fabulous. I look forward to getting away with it when I get older.
Well, yeah, but I don't. You know, it depends on whether you look older than you are. You know.
Uh, I think these days I probably look my
Yeah.
age, like at this point. But I know, but there is a time, like I look at my parents, and like there is a time where I will suddenly start not, I will look much older.
Yeah, I went to school in Western Junior High School. It's called West End Middle School now. It was in Bethesda, Chevy Chase.
Oh yeah, I saw you were born in Norfolk.
Yeah, right. I grew up in Europe. You can look it up later if you want to. It's called a Westland Middle School, but when I was there, it was called Western Junior High, and I painted a mural.
Is it still there?
I've got some snapshots. Hey, I'll send them to you, okay?
Sure.
Because I got to go to the Washington D.C. Film Festival. Yeah, I went to Washington twice to do Q&As with the movie. And anyway, I wanted to go to find out if it was still there. The Philistines tore the wall down.
Yeah, sadly, it happens. Yeah.
Yeah, I painted it in 1969, I remember. But I've got some snapshots. Oh, listen, 1969. Okay. It was in the library. Okay. Well, I don't know whether libraries have changed much since you were, but it had the checkout desk, and they had the clock up above. And anyway, on the wall, okay, I had the March of Time. Okay, I started out like with I can't remember how it started. I may have started out with a caveman, but I'm not sure. But I remember doing Greeks and Romans and things, and always some Egyptians. Anyway, it goes all the way across the wall, okay? And I did it. I centered it so that the figures were all the same. I mean, the same number. And then, hey, guess what the last figure was? Marching confidently towards the future. Remember, okay, think 1969, right?
Spaceman.
Right. It's got an astronaut, kind of walking. You can see his foot sticking out. He's walking towards.
Certainly.
Painted to get at a gym. Yeah, I stood up there and I painted that mural. And just Philistines remodeled. Well, now I got a nice letter from the current principal saying she was sorry, but she wasn't there. She said I had nothing to do with it. I didn't start here until I don't know 2012 or something like that. She said it probably happened sometime in the early 90s.
What was your childhood like? What did your parents do? Like, how did you even get creative? Was it some good teachers? Was it some influence of your parents?
Oh yeah, that's easy. Yeah, that's one thing you get time to practice, and so you can answer it smoothly. You know what I mean? It's easy because okay, what happened was okay, I grew up in Europe in the '60s. Okay, and we didn't have TV. The only place that we had TV was in London from '66 to '67. Okay, and Mother and Dad liked to travel. They were young. They were an attractive couple and fashionable, and Dad was so good looking. And Dad was a naval officer. He was a communications officer for the Seventh Fleet. So I grew up in Europe. Okay, and Mother and Dad used to like to, when Dad was on leave, they'd like to travel, right? Travel around Europe, just like anybody. I remember Dad I remember going with him to the factory to pick up that was one of the perks of being in the Navy. And so he got a new 1962 Mercedes right from the factory. I mean, he went to the factory to pick it up.
Nice.
And I mean, it was probably for like cost or something, because that was one of the perks of being in the Navy. And anyway, but I remember, that has nothing to do with okay, Mother and Dad used to like to make trips, and they take me with them, right? Sometimes, a lot of the time, okay. And during the day, we do what tourists do, go to the museums and that sort of thing, right? And then, of course, in the evenings, Mother and Dad would like to go out because they were still young. And I'd be alone in a hotel room, and we didn't have TV, right? But we had the leftover catalogs from the museums we went to. Like if we went to the Uffizi, like if we were in Florence and we picked up, because I mean tourists do that, right? You pick up a handbook or something from the museums, right? And so I had those, and I started copying pictures out of them. And that's how I got started. Mother didn't like martyrdoms, but she liked Madonnas and Childs.
As most mothers do.
When I was going through Mother's things after, I found some really good drawings I did of Madonnas and Childs. She saved those. That made me cry. It made me it made me make a scene. But fortunately, this scene was private, so it didn't matter. But hey, that was a good answer, wasn't it? And it's true too. It's just polished though, because I'm used to answering it.
There is no need to be polished with me. This is just a conversation. I'm an artist. I'm a professor. Like, you're an artist.
Well, the last one I remember was something to do with somebody that. Oh, well, never mind. He wasn't as nice as you. He was nice, but a couple of times he kind of lectured me. But anyway, that was a while ago. So okay, go ahead.
I
Yeah.
am not going to lecture you, I
Oh yeah.
promise.
Well, I wasn't worried about that because this isn't about the same things.
Well, our paths almost crossed at some point, not literally, but we went to the same school. You went to the San Francisco Art Institute.
Oh, you went to the San Francisco Art Institute?
I did, yeah.
I was supposed to go there and show the movie, and I was going to do a Q&A. I was going to get to be king for a day. Christopher Coppola was gonna be there with me, and we were going to show the movie, and I was going to have a reunion because one or two of the people teachers there still remembered me, and there was a student, a friend that he's still in San Francisco. He was going to be there, and he went there. We used to go skateboarding on those hills. And then of course the pandemic hit, so they canceled everything, right?
Well, and the San Francisco Art Institute lost all of its support.
Yeah, they went down. I mean, because the librarian writes me all the time. He wants me to come back. It's not like open for like people don't go there for class, but I think they're still having class. But anyway, yeah, he opened up an artist file for me too, which was real nice. Yeah, he's been really good to me. He still wants me to come back. Oh gee, why did we start talking about that?
San Francisco Art Institute.
I guess I interrupted you. That's what I did. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry. I'm Matthew. Matthew. Do you like Matt or Matthew?
Whatever's fine with you is fine with me.
It's just that I know a lot of Matts.
I just don't call me anything derogatory, and I'm
Oh
perfectly
no,
fine.
no, no. But I don't know why, but from your email, I thought you were from whatever country, and it's awful that I forgot. Well, you said Czechos. Did you say Czechoslovakia?
No, I said Czech Republic.
Oh, okay, good, good. And so, what is the other one called? Is it Slovakia?
Correct.
The Republic of Slovakia.
Nope, just Slovakia. Or, oh shoot, maybe they are the Republic of Slovakia. I just call them Slovakia. I don't know.
The workers' paradise of the People's Democratic Republic of what did it used to be called Czechoslovakia when it was under? So it was called the People's Democratic Republic of Czechoslovakia, the workers' paradise, and stuff like that. Yeah, I remember. Well, my friends Jennifer and Sam for Christmas gave me a subscription. Well, they gave me a lot of things, but they gave me a subscription to the Criterion channel. And so I've watched a lot of really good Czechoslovakian movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, from that time period, absolutely.
There was a director, the one that made those kind of animated movies. I mean, they're fantastic. Like he made The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, but this is the '60s one, the 1964 one. Okay.
Well, that's Terry Gilliam.
No, he was in the commentary. This guy's what was it called? What was his name? They're the best movies. It was called The Fabulous Baron Munchausen or something. And then he made another one about from a Jules Verne story. Oh, what was that one called? See, I can't remember anything. And the awful thing is, I watched that movie like 5 times or something when they sent it to me. I mean, I was doing things, but
Well, let's get to your doing
oh,
things.
sure.
So, yeah. So you're traditionally, or not traditionally, but like your career is sort of built on the fact that you've been making work, you've been making artwork, and have been donating it to museums and institutions over the course of your life for many years.
The way that happened was I wanted to impress my mother. See, when Jennifer and Sam wanted to make the movie, when they came here, they were thinking they were going to meet somebody like It's kind of like a lot of TV plots you've seen, Only they got the wrong one, They were expecting to meet the guy like on that Perry Mason episode. Well, a couple of them. You remember where "Ugh, they denied my genius. Ugh, now I'm gonna have my revenge." Or that one where Perry Mason tricked that guy, the painter, into when Perry Mason said, "Well, yes, of course. Now this painting here was painted by a hack." And stuff like that. He tricked him into confessing on the stand. He goes, "What do you mean I'm a hack? I'm a G." And of course, and then Perry Mason said, then he said like the other one. He said, "Now this was created by a genius." And stuff like that. But I forgot which one was that. But anyway, they got the plot wrong. I'm the one where, oh, gee, Miss Kitty, I told Pappy back in St. Louis that I was the marshal of Dodge City. What am I going to do? And Miss Kitty says, "Oh, listen, Chester, I'll talk to Matt." So everybody pretends that Chester's the marshal, right? Or like the same thing happened like with Gruber on McHale's Navy. Gee, I told Mom I was the commander of PT. What was it? PT 7? What was it? 60? I forgot the name. What was the PT on McHale's Navy?
I know the show, but I do not know the PT.
You've seen that 100 times, right? It's a standard. It's one of the standard plots, right? Oh,
Mm-hmm.
oh, gee, Mr. Cartwright, Dad's. Well, he didn't. I don't think he told Mr. Cartwright. I think he told Haas. He said, "Oh, I said I owned the Ponderosa, and now they're coming here. What am I going to do?" And little Joe says, "Well, it seems like he told little Joe." Anyway, well, look, don't worry about it. Okay, we'll think of something. And so everybody pretends. How many times have you seen that plot?
Far too many times.
A lot. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, anyway, I just wanted Mother to think I was doing well. And I got the idea from watching Mrs. Drysdale on the one where she was going to have the Margaret Drysdale Museum. and anyway, I wanted to impress Mother by memorializing Dad, and show off that I was doing well and that kind of thing. And so I donated a picture. If that museum had just said, "Thanks a lot, see ya," but they treated me like royalty. They were really. I'd never been treated so nicely in my life. I was used to being. I was lucky if I got treated with common civility. To be treated like that all of a sudden, I thought, gee, I got addicted to it. It could happen to anybody, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so naturally I kept doing it. If that museum had just taken the picture and said, "Okay, thanks a lot," I never would have done it again, probably. But I got used to being treated like a VIP, like royalty. I liked it a lot. I got addicted, and it really gave my self-esteem a boost. Poor self-esteem got me where I am. So that's how it happened. Yeah. Did that answer the question you asked? I forgot what the question was.
It certainly, yes, it
Oh,
was
good.
lovely.
Good. Yeah. It could happen to anybody. Yeah.
Well, I mean, that nature of desiring appreciation and whatever respect or any other kind of word you want to put to it. I mean, this is something that all artists,
It's very common. Everybody's like that.
everybody wants that about no matter what they do. I mean, they could be a good janitor and you want that. You could be a great artist and you want that. It doesn't matter.
Everybody appreciates praise. Yeah, but everybody wants to be treated like a VIP.
Now, is your mother still alive?
No, Mother's been gone. That's why I was talking about finding those Madonna pictures. No, Mother's been gone for 11 years. Actually, that's kind of what happened. That's kind of one of the reasons I got into trouble was because she spent money on this expensive car, and she never got to drive it. She just walked in and bought a new Cadillac for oof, a lot of money, $40,000 or something, and then she couldn't drive it because they took away her insurance. They wouldn't insure her anymore. And anyway, and I was real upset, and I thought, well, after I kind of recovered, I thought, we're going to get some use out of this car. That's why that car shows up so much in the movie and everything. And I thought, we're going to get some use out of this car. So I loaded it up with lots of pictures and drove to a lot of museums as a benefactor and a philanthropist. And I got treated like royalty, and with extra respect too, because I got to be a Jesuit priest.
And we'll come back to all that. But my first sort of interest is like, you have a great talent for making, visual arts.
Well, thanks a lot. I hardly ever sold anything. And then when I did, Mother forgot to give me. That's one of the conversation pieces I pull out when, because of the hurricane, Mother forgot to give me a check for, oh my goodness, I think it was a lot, $500 or $600 or something. Well, I found a couple of galleries in New Orleans, I remember. Have you ever been to New Orleans?
I have.
Oh, okay. Well, I walked up and down Royale Street, I remember. I had a pack of 4x6 photographs in my jacket pocket. And then I had a briefcase and I did it real well. First of all, I asked them, and before they had a chance to get mad, I'd pull. It was a kind of a carrying case, like a briefcase, but you didn't have to open it like that. Anyway, I'd pull out a painting, a good one, and that would get their interest before they could get mad and say, what are you. And then I would pull out the 4x6s, and that's how I found a nice dealer, and I made friends with her. Her name was Josephine. And it was a complicated Italian name, was Andracchio, and she would sell pictures for me, things tourists liked, you know. I never sold more than, oh, let me think. I guess I sold around 10 or 12 a year, maybe 15, sometimes more, sometimes.
That's better than a lot of artists these days.
And it was mainly because it would help me with expenses because Mother told me that I had to live within my income. She got disability and VA benefits for me in 1989, I think. Yeah, and she said you have to live within your Social Security and your VA. And I inherited the VA because I was in the hospital when before I was an adult. So I inherited the childhood. And anyway, so that was a little extra. Because, traveling, I used to take buses all over the place. I'd have my briefcase that's why the paintings I used to donate were so small, because I like to be able to carry something small, right? Yeah, it was an adventure because I can remember sometimes, they want to drive me to my hotel and so I give them the name of the best place, the Peabody or something.
Oh, that's Memphis.
Yeah, because I concentrated on the southern states and Texas and Florida naturally because I lived here. Because Mother lived in Laurel, Mississippi, so naturally I would go to places that near me. Right, I kind of worked my way out. Oh, and of course St. Louis and further up, but then I'd sneak out the door and go and stay someplace cheap. Or sometimes I slept at the bus station. Wow, those bus stations in those days. Well, I couldn't do it again, but now sleeping in an airport's fine, but those bus stations in those days, the dregs of humanity were there.
Indeed, yes. Now, I'm actually interested in, so when you were 17, you suppose you had a nervous breakdown and then you were diagnosed as schizophrenic.
I like that. That one's gone out of fashion now.
Right.
And they're just terms, It's kind of like when you can't think of any other word, you just say, okay. Because when you think about it, how many mental illness type terms can you think of? There's schizophrenia, there's paranoia, But I got to be, but most people get labeled paranoids. Like if you watch movies, I mean, it sounds worse than it is because whenever you see, that's another, the standard plot, like on a detective show or something like that. It's always, oh, he is a paranoid schizophrenic, and that's always the guy that the Norman Bates type guy. If they gave him a medical diagnosis, it would be paranoid schizophrenia because that's about the only one anybody knows. You know,
Well, no, wait, hold on. I'm actually asking because my brother was bipolar, and I know, and I've heard that also you've been sort of, maybe you were actually bipolar from the
I
beginning.
don't even know what that means. I got a vague idea, but I don't believe these terms. They're terms. They go in and out of fashion. You know,
Indeed.
and I mean, other people seem strange to me. I mean, I can't understand why people go out of their minds over football games and things, and
I agree completely.
they get so wound up about politics and things. Gee,
I don't want to talk about politics. I'm
no.
still reeling from Trump. But anyways, my interest is because my brother was bipolar, and so I'm fascinated about, was that,
That term was a term that I don't remember even hearing it until,
it used to be called manic depressive.
yeah, that one I can remember hearing. Yeah, manic depressive sounds worse because that it's this political correctness stuff. See, manic depressive sounds real bad. Like if you say,
Hmm.
oh, so and so's a manic depressive, it sounds like, well, it sounds like they're crazy. That takes care of the manic part, and the depressive part kind of makes it like, so it's a crazy suicidal person.
That is the picture they liked to paint of them, yes.
It's just a term.
Well, I'm wondering from your perspective though, like, did that, but the thing is to you it's normal, but like, did it ever like help you or hinder you, kind of thing? Like, what, was it?
Oh, well, the Manager Foundation was good to me. I didn't appreciate it, but that was because I was a teenager. See, it wouldn't have because, I didn't tell anybody. See, I left the Manager Foundation against medical advice, and they told my mother, they told her that I'd be in institutions and group. I was in a group home in 89 and 90, yeah. I was in a hospital, when I was a teenager. I was in two. And anyway, but I wanted to leave and they had to let me go at the time but it was against medical advice. They told me, yeah, I've shown people, I showed Jennifer and Sam and said they predicted that I'd be in institutions and group homes the rest of my life. But I managed to get by. But now the Manager Foundation, I really respect them because they predicted my immediate future really well. They said that I'd never graduate, and they said I'd never be able to keep. I mean, their predictions for my immediate were very, very accurate. I was in the hospital again for just a little bit. Then I had to come back, and this because I was in San Francisco, and this was in '89. Okay, so like people would have known after '89. Yeah. Gee, I'm sorry I did that. Now look, you just tell me to be quiet if I start running on, because I'm like the Count of Monte Cristo. I don't talk to as many people as I used to.
The point of this is to hear your stories, so I'm not going to cut you off.
So what were we talking about? We were mental illness, right? Yeah.
Yeah, we were just talking about like just whether or not, like, there's a long history of mental illness in art history, music, literature, all this kind of like stuff. I mean, it's a very common thing that people with mental illnesses either are creative, and so the question is sort of like, was it because of it that you became creative, or was it that you're creative and you sort of embraced the mental illness as sort of part of it?
No, not at all. In fact, that's something I never would have really thought about. No, I believe that's kind of complicated. No, I think it's just like anybody. I started out copying pictures, just like I told you, just like all kids do, right? And then I had the idea to impress my mother. That's true. Now I did decide that I was something of a prodigy. As far as drawing and everything, I'm not as good as I used to be because things are different now. But nobody's asked me to sit down and draw their portrait since the 80s, so I couldn't do it again. I have to practice. Oh, yeah, I wanted to be a commercial artist when I wanted to work in, I don't know, maybe Disney or something. I don't know. But now, when I was at the Chicago Art Institute, I did have a part-time job. There was an animation studio. This is way back in '71. Oh, but it was so boring.
You did photography back then as well.
Well, yeah, well, I took photography because I thought, look, I'm going to school, and I ended up at the Chicago Art Institute because it wasn't so much my mother's idea. See, mother was kind of like Mrs. Drysdale. I mean, she was always deferring to whoever the most socially prominent person was. And there was a lady in Jackson, Mississippi called Myra Green, who was a good artist, actually, a society type artist. Anyway, mother deferred to her because now this lady took an interest in me. So, actually, it was her idea that I went to the Manager Foundation because I was at the University Medical Center Psychiatric. They had the upper two floors. And anyway, they didn't know what to do with me. I was there for so long. Then it was her idea to go to the Manager because the Manager Foundation was fashionable and everything. So I went there. I was there for a year, and then I wanted to leave. They wanted, yeah, okay. I'm sorry to run on, and I wanted to leave because I was tired of being there, and also we needed me because of the benefits from Dad. They couldn't, but they wanted me to go into some kind of other place, but they had something to do with it anyway. But I said no. Look, I want to go to school, and so I ended up going to the Chicago. I would have rather have gone to the Kansas City Art Institute because they had a pro where you could work for Hallmark. But anyway, but mother deferred to Mrs. Green. So I ended up, because Chicago Art Institute was fashionable and famous. Okay. Now the painting class, in those days, the school was really irresponsible. Okay. It was like run by hippies and all the students. They didn't even grade people. And the painting class was, it's like, we want you to interpret this. They didn't teach you anything. And I was thinking, well, gee, I'm going to school. I should try and learn something. So I decided to start studying photography. Of course, that didn't do me any good because all that stuff's obsolete now.
I resent that. I'm a photographer.
Yeah, well, good for you, because I've had people tell me things like, well, you can do all these things, digitally. But so you probably learned how to use things like an 8x10 and stuff like that, right? Yeah.
I
But
did.
and like, even if it is true that you can do all these fantastic things, but I remember, yeah, Dan Winters. Have you ever heard of him?
I have.
Okay, he told me that's true, but they don't have a soul. I know that sounds kind of melodramatic, but that's what he told me. That's what he told, and there's something to that,
There is.
It somehow it affects the artistry, it makes a difference. Maybe not. I don't know how to put it in words, but I guess you would know what I mean if you're an artist yourself, right?
I do completely know that. I mean, there's a huge difference between a photograph that's made with an analog process, a film, a Polaroid, anything like that, versus a digital. There's somewhat of almost a coldness to the digital works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is definitely missing something. These days, of course, you can put it back in with like manipulations and things like that. But there is
it's still not the same. And
it's
also,
not.
besides, things happen by accident and they happen unintentionally. If you're trying to do something, it'll be a disaster. It's okay. They gave me a subscription to the Criterion Channel. I was listening to some of the movies where they have commentaries. The people that made the movies are okay, and like I listened to the commentary on a movie that everybody's seen. It's the most famous horror movie ever made. It's called Night of the Living Dead. Okay, and they were all sitting there talking about how they had no money, and they had all they were thinking about was problems with money, continuity. But now people teach all these things. Like, okay, I remember one of the things was like, professors in colleges say, oh, this is such a comment on civil rights and this and that and this and that and so on. And what happened was they said, we hired, I forgot his name, but we hired him because he was the best actor. It was the best deal because he worked for free and he'd bring his own lunch. That's why they hired him. It had nothing to do with him being black or anything. And then I think it was Judith O'Dea, she chimed in and said, and it's great that all that happened, but see, if we had been trying to make a civil rights statement, we wouldn't have done it because we'd have been trying, and then it wouldn't have worked, and the movie'd be forgotten and everything. And it was like not having money made them all be creative. So it helped them.
It's true. I mean, one of my favorite artists is Henry Darger. Do you know his work?
No.
He died probably, I want to say, in the 60s or 70s, but he was a completely untrained artist. And he was a janitor in the school system in Chicago, and he just made for himself, and he never even thought of it as art, and now it sells for hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, I know, and there's something wrong about that. Yeah, well, I never sold anything either, but I sell stuff all the time now, but that's because of Jennifer and Sam and everything.
Well, are you still working? Are you still creating stuff?
Did I send you that picture of me with all those girls holding their portraits?
You did.
Yeah, right. Okay, well, yeah, because I owe all that to Jennifer and Sam, and they're making that movie and everything. And then again, also, there's a TV show here called Hometown. It's on HG. Mother used to watch that now, HGTV.
We all watch HGTV. We
You
love
do?
it.
Oh, my
Absolutely.
goodness. So you've seen Hometown then?
Probably.
Oh, yeah. Well, it takes place where I live. I was on one of the episodes.
Oh, I may have seen you.
Yeah, I was on one of the episodes. Yeah, I painted her daughter twice. That did me a lot of good, So I sell stuff all the time. I owe it all to Jennifer. I always say I was a lonely old shut-in. When I got into trouble, I was thinking, gee, what am I going to... Because I was kind of thinking I was going to spend the rest of my life traveling around being a philanthropist. And then, when I got into trouble and everything, and I was sitting in here, this little room, and I did what you said. I closed the door and I closed the blinds. I don't have any curtains, but, I was thinking, what am I going to do now? I can't just watch TV the rest of my life. And then they showed up, and now I get to talk to people like you.
Well, I have to admit, okay, wait, so let's go back a step. I have to admit, your entire thing of sort of donating to art museums and all this, I love it.
Yeah, well, but it was an accident, just like I said, if they'd have just said, thanks a lot.
I am not judging and criticizing in any way whatsoever. I think it's excellent. I mean, it's in many ways it's actually helped a lot of things because it's encouraged more conversations about like what makes for originality, is talent the reason for things to be in museums and all this kind of stuff.
When it comes to the people that work in museums, I mean, they don't care about the pictures they don't know. Nobody knows. All they know about is the other stuff, like the paperwork, the provenance, it's like if you get the signature right, you could show them anything, literally anything. If you got the right paperwork, that's all they know. I don't know. It's like I don't know how to. I'm not articulating that. It's they don't know the picture. They know the other things, the paperwork, the provenance, the references. I remember there was this scandal, you remember the famous scandal with that ugly statue, the Cezanne statue? This family of forgers in the UK, but I think the one that ended up going to prison for about a year or something was, oh, Jeff forgot his name. But anyway, what they did was, they worked on this for years. And the interesting thing is that the statue itself it's an ugly piece of junk, They just, and they just poured coffee over it and everything. But the stuff that went before it, is a masterpiece. And that's what's so interesting, because like nobody ever sees any of that. You know what I mean? Like nobody would have seen that gallery receipt. They forged this beautiful gallery receipt from some gallery in Paris. It was like a 1900 gallery receipt, and it was a masterpiece. And it's interesting that, I mean, the real work of art is something nobody ever sees. You know what I mean?
From my understanding, you made art and then you just sort of donated it, and that's fine. Did you ever make fake provenances also?
Oh yeah, but yeah, I wasn't as good as that. No, no. Listen, I'm just I'm, so, for one thing, there really is something wrong with me, because I don't have that kind of patience or application or any. No, no. And that was one of the jokes I used to like to tell kids. Like when I used to get to go to Q&As at universities and things, because we got to go on an NEA tour with the movie, and like we went to some good schools. We went to Emory, and anyway, but like that was one of my standard jokes was, "Gee, I didn't know Rembrandt used acrylics." Do you get that one?
I did, because he does not use acrylics.
They all liked that one. No, yeah, but what I did was, okay, in the beginning I didn't have to. I mean, I just told them. I got this at Phillips in 19. So I'll send you the catalog or something like that, or you can look it up. I forgot what I said, or maybe they didn't even ask me, because I remember in the beginning they used to just accept it right off. I guess I made a better impression than you'd think. Now later on I had to do a little work, but what I used to do was I had a stack of old Sotheby's and Christie's catalogs, and what I do was I just sort of make Xeroxes, and I could kind of paste up something, and then take a picture of my fake, and then glue it all together, and then do another Xerox and say, oh, here's a copy of the catalog. Catalog's this place and that place, but of course you can come get it. It's stuff. Who knows what I said, and that was usually good enough. Yeah. No, I wouldn't have done anything complicated like forging a 1900.
Well, but going back to it, you said that you did it because to try and sort of impress your mother. Did it work?
Yeah, I did. I did. She was pleased. She was pleased that I memorialized it. And I kept memorializing Dad by giving icons to churches. When I went to back to the Chicago Institute, we went to see Cardinal George, and we gave him an icon. And we got a beautiful. Mother loved that letter. It was all about how he was going to mention Dad in a mass or something. I can't remember. But I mean, if you want me to, I can send it to you.
No, it's not that big a deal. But that's an interesting thing. My father is an Episcopal reverend. And so I found it interesting that you chose to be a Jesuit priest. Is that right?
Well, yeah, but see, I got that idea. I was watching TV. I got a lot of my ideas from TV. I guess everybody's like that, I guess.
Indeed, yes.
TV and movies plagiarize life. They plagiarize. I like to say TV and movies plagiarize life, and life imitates TV and movies. I know young people that talk like young people on TV shows, and they talk like young people on TV shows that are old TV shows. Like I know one. He's the son of who talks like one of the characters on a TV show that was in the 90s. But anyway, so life imitates, but TV plagiarizes. But anyway, what were we talking about?
The fact that my father's a priest and you chose to be a priest.
How did I get the idea? Yeah. Hey, guess what? You're the first one that's ever asked me that. Just kidding.
Seriously? I was going to say, no, everybody's asked you that.
That's one of I was expecting that one. Yeah. No, I was watching a movie. It was called The Swan. And it had Grace Kelly and Louis Jourdan and Alec Guinness. But anyway, her uncle was a priest. And I thought, hey, wealthy, prominent families. And that was just the one that set me off, because I had seen, films and TV shows where a wealthy and prominent family would have a priest in the family.
Oh, no, wait, just to be clear, my question is not about how did you come to be a priest. My interest
I always wanted to be one anyway, but gee, But I read about those seminaries when I was in high school, and I was thinking, uh, gee, this sounds pretty bad. Yeah, I don't. It's not. They sounded really. Those seminaries sounded really bad.
My father enjoyed his time there.
I'm glad, but they sounded bad to me. Okay, and then besides, everybody's different.
Well, but my interest is not just in the choice of being a priest, but why Jesuit?
I learned everything I needed to know from watching the Father Brown. The old ones, the ones with Kenneth Moore, the good ones, the ones I remembered watching on PBS way back. And well, they were made by the BBC in the early '70s, but I watched them on PBS in the early '80s, and I thought, gee, he inspired me, and I learned how to act and talk like a priest from watching those. And I used to help people too, because people will come up and talk to you about their problems and things. I had all kinds of help. And after I got some practice, I worked up some reassuring things to say to them. And
Had to sell it, right?
well, that's good. I was at a bus station, and there was this real nice Mexican family. I mean, and like everything that they had in the world was in cardboard boxes, and they needed to go someplace. And I watched all their things for them for almost an hour, and then I blessed them, and they got on the bus. Isn't that nice?
It is. It's always nice to do good for others.
Yeah.
Now, moving forward, though, so like, what is it you sort of hope at this point to? I don't know. Like, you're known for this act that you did. Is that sort of what you want to be known for?
Gee, I haven't really thought about it. I'm not used to thinking like that. See, for one thing, I've always found it's best to have realistic ambitions. Because, like, I remember when I was at the manager, I wanted to be a commercial artist. I wanted to work for Hallmark.
Which is completely realistic.
Yeah, I never had any plans I never had any ambitions to be somebody, a big artist, a famous one, an artist, like those guys you see on TV. No, I wanted to be a humble illustrator. I was thinking I'd like to do paperback book covers and things like that, maybe. But then again, my ideas were kind of obsolete because I got them from old movies. Like I remember seeing a movie where they were at some place where there was an artist, an old guy from Europe, and he was doing the covers. I know you're not old enough to remember, but you've seen them. They used to have pulp magazines and pulp paperbacks, and the old magazines used to have real lurid covers. Like there'd always be like some space monster, and he'd be kidnapping some really beautiful girl with hardly any clothes on. But she'd have a little bubble space helmet sometimes not. And then there'd be the guy coming Buck Rogers or somebody like that, stuff like that. Or you know what I mean? Yeah, he was painting something like that, and I was thinking, gee, I'd like to have a job like that. I never daydreamed about being the artist in Paris with the beautiful, glamorous model lying around without any clothes. You've seen lots of movies with artists like that. I never dreamed about being an artist like that. No, I wanted to be the illustrator one. But I really used to want to be the big, rich art collector. That was the best one.
Well, actually, but that brings up, like, what happened to some of all these works? So, like, these works that you donated, were they destroyed, returned to you? Like, what happened to them?
Well, most of them are sitting around in basements. Because once a museum has something, now they may have de-accessed some things, like they'll sell them or something, or who knows. But I mean, they'll sell them as what they are, obviously. Otherwise, they'd just be down in the basement. Because museums have lots of junk in their basements, because they're always reappraising paintings. They'll discover that, well, we misattributed it, or that was by his student or by his imitator. Oh yes, this is a good painting. Oh, hey, did you hear that? We got a good painting here. No, no, no. It's a painting by Nathaniel Good, the imitator of Wood. Whereas a Grant Wood is good, A Nathaniel good is no good. So whereas a wood is good, a good is no good. Do you remember that? So they do that all the time. They're always misidentifying things and like, when they decide some misattributing, and then the picture will drop. It's like a huge plummet, and then they put it in the basement or something. So museums are full of stuff, and that's where most of mine are. And then again, some things got sent back, but I never ended up with them because I used to use mail drops, mailboxes, etc., and stuff like that. And of course, once I closed it, it would end up there, like the dead letter thing or something. So who knows? Now, occasionally, people have gotten in touch with me where things have surfaced. Okay, somebody in England wrote with a picture that was donated to them. They wanted to know if I'd done it. And I didn't do that one, but now another one did surface. And I said, "Oh yeah, I did that. I remember doing that."
It surfaced and what? It just somebody bought it at a yard sale?
Well, hopefully it wasn't a yard sale. I mean, but they didn't really say. They just said somebody wanted to know if I'd done this painting. They bought it, but they didn't say where or anything. And anyway, they didn't write me directly. They wrote the lady that manages my site. Yeah, I guess I answered that question.
Yes, yeah. A lot of people are saying that like again, I'm just working off of what I can find on the internet about you. So
Oh,
like
sure.
people are saying that you stopped doing this, these donations. Have you actually stopped doing that, or are you still doing it?
Well, yeah, because you can't anymore. I used to like doing it, but I can't do it anymore.
I would imagine there would be some great museums. I can think of one like the Outsider Art Museum in Baltimore, Maryland, that probably would love an original work of yours.
Yeah, but it's not the same. I used to like doing real pictures, good pictures. I don't like that kind of stuff. I'm kind of like people have asked me what kind of art I like, and I always say I like Victorian paintings. I like cute children and things like that, and yeah, anything, yeah, Victorian style things. I like proper pictures.
Do you feel any regret about anything about doing this?
Hmm? No.
Okay.
Good grief, my conscience sure. Good grief, no.
I mean, I love that you were able to do all these, you made all these works, you donated to museums, and somehow, just through pure luck, didn't break any laws in doing it.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, I guess so. I didn't really think about that either. As far as close calls, a couple times I could tell, but people below, underlings, like I remember, like, but I could tell, like, a couple of times, maybe one of the curators didn't like me and was suspicious and everything, but he or she was afraid. Well, it was actually the case I'm thinking of was she was afraid to say anything to the director because the directors are like dictators. You're afraid they're like the big boss, you're afraid to say anything that's gonna. So, no, fortunately, I was never there when they found out. Sometimes they found out pretty soon, but, and then sometimes it took many years. But fortunately, I was never there when anything happened. So that was lucky.
Indeed. Yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, like with time and distance, like this could be like the greatest performance piece sort of like on museums and institutions ever.
Yeah, people have, whenever, I don't get to have as many interviews as I used to. That's why I appreciate you taking an interest in me because I would do a lot of interviews way back, but now it's not all that many.
Well, you're an interesting man.
Well, thanks. And they told Mother I'd be in institutions the rest of my life. Oh yeah, okay. Right, that has been mentioned to me. I remember it being mentioned a couple of times before, and somebody else mentioned it to me last week that I was talking to. Yeah, she's writing a book.
About you?
Yeah, but I don't want to. She doesn't want. Performance, right? Okay, if you're saying I'm going to do a performance art, you won't. If I'd been yeah, it's like what they said in the movie commentary. If we'd been thinking about it, it wouldn't have worked. So if I'd been thinking, oh, gee, I'm going to go out and do a performance piece by pretending to be, I probably would have gotten caught right away. You know what I mean? Or who knows? It wouldn't have worked. You know what I mean?
I do. I know exactly what you mean.
It's full of paradoxes, just like the New Testament, right? You know, everything's a paradox. Yeah.
Well, and there's the point that, like, if you did it with some almost quote, sort of malicious intent, or like trying to make a performance piece out of it, then it wouldn't have had.
I just like being treated like a VIP, and because it never happened to me before in my life. Could happen to anybody, as it seems. It happened on situation comedies all the time. I remember that time when Mr. and Mrs. Adams pretended for Lurch's sake that he could be the boss, he could be the owner of the house and everything, and they'd be the butler and maid. Remember that? Because his mother was coming, but they had a hard time getting Lurch to go back to being the butler. He convinced himself so much that he was not Miss, but Mr. Owner of the mansion, and they
Mr.
were
Adams.
yeah,
Yes.
right. Gomez and Morticia had a hard time. They couldn't actually. That's kind of the way that episode ended. They couldn't convince him that they were trying to, but they couldn't do it. Do you remember that one? But anyway, it's the same kind of plot. Yeah.
I loved the Adams Family. Yes.
But it's the same plot device. He was bragging to his mother that he owned the place and servants and everything, and then of course she makes the visit, and so they all have to pretend. Gomez pretended he was the butler, and she pretended she was the maid.
Well, one of the things that I find interesting is like almost everything you've done in your entire life has almost never been for any sort of personal acclaim or personal financial gain or any sort of thing like this.
I'm financially gaining now. I might be mental, but I'm not crazy. I, a lot of times, the simple answers are like I think in real, not on TV, but in real, the person that you think that the police suspect almost always did do it. Whereas on TV, it's always so complicated.
Well, they got to fill out 42 minutes, so yeah.
Well, no, but they have to make an interesting story. It's as simple as that. I wanted to impress mother, and then I'd always had poor self-esteem, and when everybody treated me like that, I just wanted to keep it at it. Could happen to anybody. And I do like to draw and paint. I like to draw and paint the kind of things that I like and my mother liked. That's Victorian type things. But then again, I used to do a lot of things for museums because they were simple. Like I favored modern artists because if all you have to, it's a lot easier to just scrawl a couple of lines on a piece of paper and do a good signature than it is to do a complicated Victorian painting. John Meeran with those stupid sailboats, that take like a couple of minutes at best. Yeah, I used to do things like that because they were easy. Yeah, oh, because people have asked me, one of the questions I usually get is what artist, who's your favorite artist, or what artist did. Were you going to ask me that one?
No.
Oh, okay.
But you're welcome to answer it if you want.
Okay, well, good. Well, yeah, I used to like to do easy artists if I could.
What constitutes an easy artist to you?
Oh, any of those modern type ones. The ones I just mentioned were real easy. John Mayer and Milton Avery. Have you ever heard of them? Lasso Maholi Nagy. If it's the things I'm thinking of, didn't he do collages and things? And
he did, primarily photography based.
Those wouldn't have been much of something by him wouldn't have been much of a challenge.
Some of them, no, are quite rudimentary at this point.
Yeah, right.
Back then they were quite skillful, but now they're not so much.
I thought he was dead.
Oh, he's definitely dead. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Good. Yeah. Well,
Are you still painting now?
oh, yes, I sure am. Yeah, I did. Hey, can you see me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Hey, I'll go out in the hallway and get it. This one guy, this doctor here, he wanted a recreation of, yeah, because there's a gallery here in Laurel. And, oh, yeah, this is good. I hope you can see it good. He wanted me to copy Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galilee. Okay, yeah, but he also wanted, and he wanted his children's faces painted in instead of some of the disciples. And I paint in this little bedroom, because I've been painting in little bedrooms all my life. I've never had a studio or anything. Actually, I use my bed here as the I kind of sit back like this and paint, and I'll sit on the edge of the bed. I propped that up on a chair and did it, and I put the paints over here on the side of the bed, and yeah, I've never had a studio or anything. It's kind of like the way I got started, in a hotel room when mother and dad were out.
Well, you have gained some large amount of notoriety, whether it's, well, I mean, it's for your skill for sure.
Well, thanks a lot. You sure boosted my self-esteem. Everybody likes. You're a professor, aren't you?
I am.
Then you've probably heard this old saw. I don't have a degree. I'm lucky to have a high school diploma, but because I was in the hospital. But anyway, okay. Does this old saw sound familiar? Let this be taught in all the schools. Let flattery be the food of fools. Do you remember that one?
I have heard that, yes.
But I like flattery anyway when I can get it.
Well, flattery's always nice.
It's hard to tell the difference between praise and flattery, but I like them both. I'm like most people my age anyway, or really anybody.
So now, you're living on your own still, right? Because you're not, I mean, you're not that old.
Now I am because mother's gone. Oh, I'm sorry, Matthew. What do you teach?
Photography.
Oh, okay, well, good for you.
I enjoy it. But I enjoy teaching anything I can teach. Like, I often say that, like, I was going to be a teacher and I just happened to choose art. So I would have taught whatever topic I ended up studying.
Oh, so you're an artist too? Did you start out being? Did you take photography at the San Francisco Art Institute?
I did.
When were you studying there? Was this the 80s or 90s or something? Or
90s in
90s?
yeah. I got my undergraduate at the Corcoran in
Oh my
Washington
goodness!
D.C.
And you would have known a teacher named Linda Connor.
I do know Linda Connor. She was
Yeah,
my professor.
yeah,
You know Linda Connor?
yeah.
I get the sense Linda doesn't like me, so
The librarian said she was happy to hear from me again. Well, I don't. You see, because the last time I would have seen her, she was young. Because see, the last time I saw her would have been 1977.
yes. The last time I saw her would be 2000.
Yeah, well, 1977 was a lot longer ago than 2000.
From what I understand, well, I know she's a professor emeritus, but I'm not sure if she's actually still in the classroom.
I don't know, but the librarian, his name's Jeff Gunderson. He's the Oh yeah, and he found all these things. Oh, he because when they closed, he went through all the archives, and he found all these photographs of Matisse. Matisse lectured there in the 20s.
Wow.
He was there for a while, apparently. Not a real long time, but long enough.
Yeah, I was the manager of the Diego Rivera Gallery where that mural is.
Yeah, I remember walking under that thing. That's what I mean. I don't like that kind of art. It's ugly. I'm like my mother. I like Victorian things. See, I never really wanted to be an artist. I wanted to be an illustrator, a commercial artist or something.
But you mentioned that now you're selling. Are you selling through a gallery? Like, how are you doing your sales now?
There's a gallery, there's a site, and there's a gallery here in Laurel. That was me sitting in front at the window of the gallery in Laurel with all those girls holding their portraits. Because see, she also has two other artists, but they're artist craftsmen, and one makes toys out of out of wood, and the other one makes all kinds of other things, and she makes furniture, but it's furniture that they get from old houses that they tear down. Yeah, I was on the show Hometown. You could probably find my episode if you want to.
I'm sure I can. YouTube is marvelous like that.
I don't know if I understand art much either, but I sure am. As far as most people my age, I haven't got much to complain about because I've got plenty to do. It's not the what's it called? The creeping paralysis of retirement or something like that. Yeah. No, I'm as busy as I like to be. And I owe it all to Jennifer and Sam, the filmmakers. And I really appreciate you taking an interest in me, Matthew.
Absolutely.
And I hope you'll stay friends with me. I'll send you some. I'll email you some things. I think I emailed you my Father's Day picture, didn't I?
You did.
Yeah,
Yes.
there's a picture of me, and there's lots of symbolism in that picture, because see, Jennifer's father, he's a father of two girls. I mean, all of his children are girls. They're just the two girls, so they're up in the corner. And then the one underneath was Cinderella. And then I had a self-portrait of me as an artist in Paris with a little French girl. You saw that, right?
I did, indeed.
Mm.
Now, you never married or had children, did you?
Oh, no. Oh, good grief, no. They predicted institutions, and my future was so you wouldn't have had to wear shades to foresee it. But I think I'm doing pretty well right now, don't you?
You seem to be doing well. I mean, you said you're selling on a regular basis.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen you've had some art exhibitions recently.
Oh, yeah, and I'm going to go to the Norman Rockwell Museum, and I get to see everybody. I'll get to be king for a day, maybe a couple of days. Well, Matthew, I really thank you for taking an interest in me.
Well, thank you.
I hope I make some friends with some young listeners.
I hope you are enjoying and learning from the stories, experiences, and advice of our guests as much as I am. If you like the podcast, we would appreciate a 5-star rating, and a nice comment would be greatly appreciated. Please be sure to tell your friends to listen and subscribe also. You can subscribe on Apple Podcast, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. We are produced by 5014. I am your host, Matthew Doles, and for more information about the podcast and our guests, please visit our website at wisefoolpod.com. The Wise Fool is supported in part by an EEA grant from Iceland, Liechtenstein, and Norway in an effort to work together for a green, competitive, and inclusive Europe. We would also like to thank our partners Hunt Kastner in Prague, Czech Republic, and Kunstsentrene i Norge in Norway. Links to EEA grants and our partner organizations are available in the show notes or on our website, wisefoolpod.com.